Well, now that the 2009 award season has started in Hollywood, can this year's box office successes compete with the iconic films of the past? We are joined by Graydon Carter, editor of Vanity Fair's Tales of Hollywood, Rebels, Reds, and Graduates, and the wild stories behind the making of 13 iconic films. Graydon, good morning.
Good morning, Julie.
We want the wild stories, and we want the scandalous ones. Probably the most scandalous movie you feature in your book is Cleopatra.
Well, it was an amazing film, and it was just about bankrupted a studio, 20th Century Fox. They built two entire sets, one in England and one in Rome for the movie. It took 2 years to make.
Why do they build two entire sets?
Because the first one they built it in England, and it rained all the time, so they moved it to Rome. Oh. Then it cost $44 million, which is real money in those days. You had a huge romance between the two stars that, when they would go to Rome, it would virtually started the paparazzi sort of movement.
You're talking about Richard Burton
and Elizabeth Taylor.
And both were married to other people at the time?
Both married, and they became the most famously sort of adulterous couple in the world at that time. At a time when this was a really shunned upon thing. And it was just it cost so much money. But if you actually go back and look at the movie's kind of fantastic.
Yeah.
And it made its money back over time, but it just about killed the people making it. Joe Mankiewicz, who directed, he said it was the toughest 3 pictures he ever made.
Why? Because of all these?
It was just so much work.
How was Liz Taylor on the set?
Well, according to the story that David Camp wrote, I mean, she, they had to work around her moods and around her physical problems. She got pneumonia, she had a tracheotomy scar. She was probably not the healthiest and easiest person to get along with.
And didn't they also say that they had to shoot around her menstrual cycle?
You're allowed to say that on morning TV?
Yes. Well, I said it that way.
Okay.
I mean, hey,
yeah, okay.
It's part of life.
I guess so. Yes, apparently.
Why?
I have you'd answer better than me.
You're very going to move on. Guys don't like this topic.
No, well,
all right, who started the affair with who between Richard Burton and?
Well, I think it probably Richard Burton. I think he thought this would be a good way to sort of liven up his time away from home when he was on location.
Wow. All right, let's talk about The Graduate. Give us some stories behind The Graduate. Like the original cast that they had in mind was not who we ended up seeing. Is that true?
Well, you had Gene Hackman was originally going to play Anne Bancroft's father, but Mike Nichols thought he was too young.
You mean Anne Bancroft's husband?
Anne Bancroft's husband, sorry. Even though Anne Bancroft was only a few years older than Dustin Hoffman, they sort of dressed her old and predatory. And it was very funny because there's a thing in the book where Mike Nichols asks, he wants to interview Redford for the part that Dustin Hoffman plays for Ben Braddock. And he asked him if he's ever been turned down by a girl. And Robert Redford literally could not understand the concept of that. He said, "What do you mean?" And so he realized he may not be right for this part.
Wow. And originally they wanted Candy Bergen to
play the Catherine Ross part. She would have been great.
She would have been great.
Yeah.
But they're all great.
They're all great.
But it's just so weird to hear. And finally, in the final seconds, Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
They defined the 70s. Give me some.
Well, like so many of the movies we do, they're sort of iconic movies, and they help sort of define a decade. And probably nothing defined the 70s as much as Saturday Night Fever. And 3 of the stories of the movies also came from magazine articles. This one from a story about from in New York Magazine by Nick Cohen.
Wow, look at Travolta move.
And that's him.
That is him. I'm telling you, this book, it's like this. Really? No way. Oh my goodness.
Oh, bless you.
Graydon Carter, thanks so much. Vanity Fair's Tales of Hollywood.